Let's get started. Quick introduction before we delve into the subject of today. So as always, welcome to Academy. As always, I want to mention that we have additional resources. So the AI Academy is not the only resource we create. We have an AI and intelligence community forum on the ServiceNow Community website. It's an easy link to get there, sn.works/AI. Our team creates content. We have experts creating content, and that's a good place for you to ask your questions if you have any questions about one of our AI products. This session today is recorded and posted on the Now Community YouTube channel. So it's a YouTube channel with a lot of other resources as well, and we recommend to check that out. In those sessions, we tend to cover what's available in the product, but if you have any questions or if we mention some of the aspects of the products that are coming in our roadmap, please keep in mind our safe harbor notice and regarding forward-looking statements, and always check back with your account team before making any purchasing decision. If you are new to AI Academy, what is that exactly? It's a session where we bring content for you. So we bring you fresh ideas to get a better understanding and practical guidance of our AI product. As I mentioned, the session is recorded and then it's posted to be available publicly. But if you are here with us today, it's a great opportunity to ask your questions live. And so for that, we ask you to use the Q&A panel in the Zoom interface to ask your questions, and we'll get to those during the session. Our general agenda for the sessions, we always have an overview, then spend some time in an instance to show you how the product works or what we're covering today as part of the exercise, and then we have some time for Q&A. And today with me is Victor to talk to us about Generative AI Controller.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Loic, thank you for inviting me to the AI Academy. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Victor Chen. As Loic mentioned, I'm not a product manager like him. For those of you who think I have a familiar name and voice, it's because I run the Virtual Agent Academy, which happens the day before, yesterday. So here I'm just a guest star, and on the AI Academy, I'm looking forward to talking more. So with that, let's get started. So today, I wanted to introduce to you the Generative AI Controller. So ServiceNow, as you all know, we have recently shipped several solutions, part of our Now Assist package, or excuse me, suite. And part of that includes the controller. And what this does is this allows you to embed generative AI in your ServiceNow workflows without any integration complexity. So we, in part of our Now Assist suite, we have some things you may have heard, case summarization, we have a Now Assist and search, we have resolution notes generation, we have all these capabilities that uses generative AI. But what if you want to create your own generative AI workflows? Or something a little custom. Well, you can do that, and you can do that with the controller. And this allows you to achieve faster time to value for your generative AI development without having to deal with REST APIs, having to deal with integration hub. Although, yeah, it uses that in the background, but you don't have to worry about that. It's all a low code integration with a generative AI provider, whether it's Azure or OpenAI, and we're going to see how that looks like moving forward. So it's simplified API, and we have some out-of-box capabilities we ship to you, such as summarize, generate content, generic prompt, and more. We're going to use summarize in our exercise later. And you can seamlessly embed this, drag and drop into either Flow Designer, Virtual Agent Designer, or scripting. And for those of you who may have watched the Virtual Agent Academy yesterday, we used VA Designer yesterday. We're going to use Flow Designer today. Next slide, please. So some things to call out, right? First off, to use a generative AI controller, you need a Now Assist SKU. All right, that's either going to be Now Assistant Creator, ITSM, HRSD, or CSM. You may have heard that being called, Creator Plus, or or Pro Plus, or Enterprise Plus. So you need that to use a controller. It is only available for Vancouver Patch 2 and above. So you must be a Vancouver patch 2 to use this. It connects to either Azure OpenAI or OpenAI, and it requires you to have an API key and subscription. Now, Google Palm is coming soon, so you have that to look forward to if you have neither of those. But those are the two providers that's available at this very moment. And finally, there's no public access to Now LLM. So we ServiceNow give you Now LLM to use again for case summarization, for resolution notes generation, and search. But it does use the controller again in the background behind the scenes. But end users and customers won't be able to access Now LLM through the controller. Again, you can only use those providers I mentioned in that third bullet point. Okay. Next slide. So we can go to the exercise, but before that, I wanted to poll the audience. And Loic, if you can do me a favor, if you can run the poll, I'm curious about all of you in terms of if you're exploring generative AI with ServiceNow or at all, which provider are you using? Azure OpenAI, neither, or perhaps something else? And we'll give 30 seconds to 45 seconds for that. And while I do, I spoke to the slides. While I go through the exercise, feel free to ask questions in the Q&A. Loic and Eliza can answer them, or I can answer them at the end of the exercise, and we can go from there. Okay. We had 109 participants, only 52 responses. We can do more. Get those mouse clicks in.
Yeah, come on.
I'm sorry we're not raffling away a car, but I would if I could. But so far, from what I'm seeing, slight edge to Azure OpenAI, but for all of you, it's none yet, which is fine. The thesis of ServiceNow has always been an extensible platform. It's not multi-select. That's fair. Then just select the one you're most familiar with, John. But the thesis has always been our extensible platform. So we really don't mind which one you use. And of course, we're going to add more like Google, like I mentioned. But we are just curious. Okay, I think we've got about we're almost almost there. But it seems like things have evened out, Loic, to its natural conclusion, but it seems like a slight edge again to Azure OpenAI, followed by OpenAI, and then for all of you, for most of you, none yet, which is fine. But eventually, you will, or you could, or you will. Great. Okay. With that said, let's get started into the exercise. I'm going to start my screen share. Give me just one moment. Make sure this works. You know what? I'm going to flip my monitors. Give me 1 second to push this up there. And then desktop 3. That's not desktop 3. It is a desktop. Hold on a sec.
So in the meantime, I'm just going to quickly answer one of the questions. Somebody's asking us if all the generative AI capabilities in ServiceNow require an outside controller. And the answer to that is no. Some of the out-of-the-box BU-oriented solution that are available in the workspace and all of that, they ship as part of the out-of-the-box product, and they tie to our internal model. So you don't need to do any of that configuration. Today, we're going to talk about how to expand from there.
Yep. So yeah, these are for your own custom use cases. Perhaps you want to do something a little different, or you have a little different flavor of what we deliver, or what you have probably in your own mind. Today we're gonna cover how to use it. Very easy. Okay, first you need an AI provider, right? Azure OpenAI or OpenAI, and you need to connect their API endpoint and API key to ServiceNow. How do we do that? We're gonna go to connections and credentials. If you've worked with other APIs before, you have seen this, perhaps, for example, a dynamic translation or some other service. And lo and behold, we provide this out of the credential alias out of box to you, either Azure OpenAI or OpenAI. Let me back up even further. Let's install this plugin first. So I'll keep that there for a moment, but you should go to the ServiceNow store and install the Generative AI Controller, again, once you've purchased a Now Assist SKU. And the controller in the plugin, you can see I've typed this in before. There's a couple updates for me. Okay, I'll update it later. There's a Generative AI Controller store app, and then the store app has two dependencies, the OpenAI Generative AI Spoke and the Azure Generative AI Spoke. So you'll need these three at least for what we're going to do today. Okay, and again, when you install a Now Assist store app, these three should be included. Okay, so once you've installed these store apps, then we can go here. The part of the store apps provides these two aliases out of box to you. Let's use Azure OpenAI as our example. So I'll click into here, and you notice we already have a connection here, but if I didn't, I would click New, create new here in this related link. And let me close my Microsoft Teams just in case it's blown up in my other monitor. So here, you'll need your connection URL here and your API key here. Where do you get that? You get that from your Azure portal. So let me open mine up. And you see I have an Azure OpenAI resource called OpenAI-Platform. I know, very creative. And if you go to your keys and endpoints, there's your endpoint. Just copy and paste that into here. And for your API key, you just copy and paste into here. And then you click create, and it'll automatically create this connection for you. If I were to click into here, you'll see that my connection URL is my endpoint. And if I click into here, the credential, there's my API key. And then you're ready to go. You don't need to touch anything else. All right. So you created your connection and credential. Now let's go turn on some capabilities, those out-of-box capabilities I told you about. So let's go back to the navigator. Oh, one more thing we should show. I did not show this yesterday in the Academy, but if you miss it, yesterday is no big deal because you'll just get an error message telling you to do it. All right, there won't be any mystery. But you do have to go to System Properties. And you do have to go to Generative AI. You can see I've typed it in here before. There is a Generative AI provider that asks for what is the default provider. And you just type in either Azure OpenAI or OpenAI. And I think if I click into here, those are your choices. You just put one of the two in this case, Azure OpenAI, put it in there, click Save. Okay, now we're ready to dig into the capabilities. So you do have to set this up first. So then we go to, and you saw this briefly in the slide here, in the exercise slide, we go to this table, sys1 extend capability. Don't worry if it's too long, you just kind of remember it once you type it in enough times, or you just add it to favorites, right? So you don't have to remember it. Okay, so sys1 extend capability, and these are all the out-of-box capabilities we provide to you. Some of these are actually ServiceNow usable only, but the ones that we're going to go over, the ones that you can use are generate content, and this allows you to generate articles based off information. Generic prompt, which basically means you can ask whatever you want you want. And we used generic prompt yesterday in the Virtual Agent Academy. Sentiment analysis, which actually tells whether this information or this text that you input has either a negative, neutral, or positive sentiment. And then summarize, which is probably one of the more familiar use cases for generative AI, which basically says take an input and then summarize that input. Okay, and this is the one we're going to use in Flow Designer today, summarize. So to use this capability, let's say I want to use this summarize capability. I open this up. I want to make sure that active is true, and it should be true out of box. I'll click here to change scope temporarily. Yeah, make sure this is active. You'll notice for those of you who are experienced with the OpenAI API that the parameters are here for you. You have error code, provider, response, etc. Right? But as you can see, this is all low code out of box provided to you, so you don't have to worry about that. But we do want to go to the one extended definition configs related list. And you'll notice that these are all true, which is good. And one of them is default, which is the Azure OpenAI chat completion. This determines which model you use. You can see you can either use Azure OpenAI model or OpenAI LLM, GPT-4, chat completion is GPT 3.5, plain completion is GPT-3. So you have 6 options, right? Three per provider. I am going to use or make default true to be the Azure GPT 3.5 large language model. Okay. So once I've set that up, I am now ready to use this in a flow or in Virtual Agent Designer. So in my case, we're going to use a flow. We're going to use this in a flow designer. So let's open that up. Close that. Have flow designer load. So now let's create a use case. I'm going to open this in another thread and pull this aside because I'm going to use this as my notes because I'm going to build this from scratch for you rather than saying, oh, we built it already, it's all done. We're going to build a use case where when an incident gets resolved, to summarize its work notes. Okay. And then take those summary of those work notes and put them into the resolution notes field. All right. So that's an example of a use case. Now Assist doesn't ship that exact use case, but maybe you want to do that for yourself. Let's create a flow for that. So I'm going to go create a flow here. Now, you could create a subflow and then put that into a larger flow. You can do that as well. But for me, I'm just going to create a flow here. I'm going to call it summarize work notes, and I'm going to work notes, and I'm going to add a 2 because I've already got a 1 here, or behind the scenes. So, like I mentioned, we want to when an incident is resolved, summarize the work notes, and then put that into a field. All right. So our trigger is going to be an incident that is resolved. Right. So let's see, a record that gets updated, table incident. If I can open this up, loading. Oh, there. Come on, let me choose a table. Click. No. Not letting me choose a table. I don't know why. Let me just try that again. Add a trigger. Oops. Record updated from, there we go. Incident. Condition. No, yeah, condition is when the state changes to resolved. Okay, and we'll only run this once. So that's our trigger. Okay, so now let's go to our action. What are we going to do when that happens? So I'm going to click plus, click action. And I'm going to go down to the spoke, the Generative AI Controller spoke. There it is. And you see, those are the 4. There's a bunch of others that are kind of in the background actions, but you got generate content, generic prompt, sentiment analysis, and summarize. I want to use summarize. Okay, and I wonder if they have, basically this capability can be summarize input text. Easy peasy. Summarize, text to summarize. Now, what do I want to summarize? I want to summarize the incident work notes, right? So let me show you how to do it the easy way, and then I'm going to show you why we might need to script this, okay? So if I were to summarize a text, or I'm sorry, a field that was already a string field, like maybe long description or short description, I would do it this way. I would just use the data pill picker, pick the record update trigger, incident record, and pick the field, for example, description, right? Or work notes. And that's how you usually do it. But there's a little twist with a journal field like work notes. Because work notes is a journal field, you can't just pull it in straight. It's not a string field. Therefore, when you try to summarize it, it's not going to summarize well because the summarize action is expecting text or a string. So what do? We got to convert that work notes journal field type into string. How do we do that? Very easy. 3 lines of code or 3 lines of script. Okay, I'm no engineer. If I can do it, you can do it. So we're going to click this script block here. And we're going to declare, we're just going to declare a variable called journal field because I need to pull the work notes field here. And in the comments, it tells you can grab stuff using fd underscore dot data. So we're going to do that, fd underscore dot data. And as you can see, as I type, it autofills for me. I just keep pressing enter and then dot trigger. Yeah, I enter again, dot current, right? I'm just reading the comments here. I'm not doing this from knowledge or memory. Dot. Okay, now the fields, right? Now I'm going to find the work notes field. So yeah, I like how all of this is given to me already. Maybe it's running out of letters here, so I type in W. Yep, there it is. Work notes. Okay, so grabbing that field, and I want to do something to that field. I want to convert that field to a string, right? So I'm going to declare another variable called journal string. All right, this is going to be the journal field in a string, and I'm going to convert journal field to get display value. For those of you who've done scripting and now in Glide or now before, very familiar function to you. And then lastly, return that journal string. That'll just basically return the string variable now, which is a stringified version of the journal field entry. That's it. All right, done with that action. Basically summarize the work notes, which is this string. Okay, you can see we kind of borrowed from lines 5 and 6 in the comments there. So that's done. And then finally, what we want to do is update the incident record. Once we summarize, we're going to take that summarized text and plop it into the resolution notes field of that record. Okay, so let's do that there. I'm going to go back to, let's see here. Where's my update record? I'll just type it in here. Update, there it is, update record. It might have been in core probably. Table incident again. Record. I can just, the trigger record updated basically this record. Yep, this incident record. And then which field do I want to put this into? Field, let's go, where's the resolution notes field? And what I want to put in here, use a data picker again. This time I grab from the summarize action. And you remember those parameters I told you about? Either you get response, action status, don't treat as error, provider. There's some more here. We want to pull the response because I just sent the work notes into the summarize action from the controller, and it's going to output me the response. I now want to put that response into the resolution notes field of the ticket, right? All right, I am done. Let's save this. Great. Now let's test it. Now I need an incident with lots of work notes, right? Not lots of work notes, some work notes. And I don't know if I have one real quickly, or I don't know if I have any. So I'm going to look really quickly. I'm going to go to incidents. I'll just put some in there. How are we doing on time? We're doing más o menos on time. So you can see I have some work notes in this one already. And this one I basically copy and pasted from Wikipedia. This long text here, but let's do this again. So this is, I don't know what this is about, a plant, I believe. And I'm going to put this in another incident. So put this in work notes. I'm going to say this, this information is super helpful, right? Looking forward to learning more, more, etc. I could put in one or multiple work notes. There we go. So now I want to summarize these work notes. So I'm going to just copy and paste here. As you can see, this is the out-of-box summarize tool, but this is not what we built. I'm going to test that in there, run it. Let's view the execution details. Success completed. That's good. And let's take a look at this ticket. And you can see here in the resolution notes, I didn't change it to resolve because this was a test here. I didn't actually execute it. You'll see that a summarization is put into the resolution notes field. Voila. Some other wrinkles I could have done. I could have added this. After I create this flow, I can attach this flow to a UI action to create my own summarize button up here, right? I could use this to create records. I can use this to update records like what we've done here. Sentiment analysis. Sentiment analysis would have just returned a negative here or a positive here, right? In terms of the response. So there's a whole host of other use cases you can do. This is just one example of a use case. Let me just resolve to put this back in there. A lot of use cases in here. And definitely look forward for you to explore and experiment with the controller. As you can see, very low code. We didn't script or code or or study an API document whatsoever. I look forward for you to explore the generative AI controller. And with that, that concludes the exercise. And I can go back to the slides. I don't think I have anything else in the slides, just Q&A. So with that, yeah, I'll do some Q&A. So don't know if anyone wants to ask me questions or I'll just read them myself here. Inline scripting bad practice. This should be a dedicated flow action to do the conversion. Sure, to each their own. And then Christina asked, can you show what non-technical user experience, what does it look and feel after the string is created? Oh, I believe we just showed you. Oh, or you wanted what the actual string looked like in that script. I don't know if it's possible to show, but I think I can in the execution steps here. Summarize, it might be in here, fields, might be in here actually. Yeah, provide or here, text to summarize. This is what the raw text looks like in there. And then Q&A, it looks like all the questions being answered by Loic or Eliza. Thank you very much for that. Some good questions there. And then Anonymous asks, in layman terms, can you show how this would look without the technical jargon? How does it look to an agent working a case? Well, yeah, so this would be what the admin or the developer builds, right, to the agent who works a case and changes the state to resolved. They wouldn't, they wouldn't have to do anything. They change to resolved, and then after a couple seconds, we can even let's see, how do we do on time? We can't do it now, but if I wanted to, right, I would activate this. And then I would give the agent a heads up, hey, we have this new feature where every time you change a state to resolved, it'll automatically update the resolution notes for you. Now, when you change this to resolved, usually the resolution notes are required field. You can just put something in like, to be updated, right? ... And then when you click update, it'll catch the state change as a trigger and automatically do this, input this for you. And the agent doesn't have to do anything. They just see that the ticket being resolved automatically. So again, very straightforward. Go back to the slide here, full screen it. Jose asked, oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, I just want to say, I think it's amazing. We went super fast, but it's amazing to realize that in 20 minutes, we basically built very easily something that integrates with a very advanced model, and we are able to perform a task that otherwise would have been impossible a few years ago. So it's pretty impressive. It was fast, but I think we can take time to just realize that it's pretty impressive.
You can watch the video. You can watch the recording again and again at 0.75 speed if you want to. But it's kind of the beauty of, I'm not a flow designer expert, but I kind of figured it out because flow designer also is just very easy to use. VA designer for the other flow we did yesterday, also pretty straightforward. So yeah, that's the power of low code tools in ServiceNow. How are we doing on time? Or do we have time for other questions?
Yeah, we have a few more minutes if you want.
Okay. Yeah. In the chat, Mikhail asked, "Are we going to receive these instructions?" Yeah, the recording's going on YouTube. You can just follow along, or add your own twist. The real instruction, if anything, the new twist is using that summarize action or one of the other generative AI actions. You send it an input, you receive an output in that response parameter, and from there, the world's your oyster in terms of workflows you want to use for in Flow Designer or scripting, which we didn't show, but that's documented, or VA Virtual Agent Designer, which we covered yesterday. Eric asks, can you specify the format of summarization? String, just text. And then VJ asks, is there a fine-tuned LLM related to ITSM tasks that will be able for use within ServiceNow? That's what Now LLM is. So you can't use that in the controller yourself. ServiceNow uses that for the Now Assist solution suite. So if you want to look for Now Assist for ITSM, right? That uses our fine-tuned model for incident summarization, for resolution notes generation, and search, etc. But for the controller, you can just use the two providers I mentioned earlier in the slides, Azure, which I used, or OpenAI.
Great. So just going back on the question about the format, if somebody wanted a shorter summary, a longer summary, or summary in bullet points, then would they have to use like the generic prompt instead?
Probably. I've seen that question before. I haven't tried it myself, but yeah, that could probably work. Yeah, especially GPT-4. For those of you familiar, GPT-4 allows for richer formatting the output. It's all in the prompt, right? And generic prompt, you can basically tell it to do whatever. Give me a recipe, write me a poem, or summarize with XYZ, prompts, and it should be able to provide you with the output that you are looking for, at least close to. And then Susan asks, this was a third-party LLM, which is true. If we wanted to build our own customization with the ServiceNow LLM, how do we do that? As I mentioned, you're not able to. The Now LLM is our internal LLM that we use for our Now Assist solution. So, as of today, you're not able to use the Now LLM with a controller, just your third-party LLM subscription.
All right. I think that's a good time to wrap up today. Thank you, Victor, for the very insightful presentation. I hope everybody got a lot out of that.
All right. Thank you, everyone.